Hi, and welcome to episode 3 of Beauty's Queen's Random Thoughts, Happenings, and Ideas. Here I'm Beauty. She's your queen to be. Sorry, I got beside myself. Excuse my singing. I like music, but I cannot sing. But what is singing but songs and words on a tune? My random thought for today would be about sayings and where do they come from. A lot of times we say things not knowing the root of it. Okay, one saying that I used to say all the time, but I stopped saying because no matter who I asked, nobody knew the proper way to say it or what it was even saying. And it was, goodness gracious, what? Can you finish that? And when you finish that to what you thought it was, is that something that you really want to say? You understand what I'm saying? And that's the way it is. Another saying is, happy wife, happy life. And my brother-in-law agrees with that 100%. And so do I. And I just think that if women bring the joy, as long as you're making her happy, then you will be happy also. So take note, gentlemen, young men, young and old. Make your wife happy and your troubles in life are over. Over, I tell you, over. I'm just a little overjoyous right now, which is good because you just don't understand. Okay, and then another saying would be Indian giver. Although a lot of people know where that come from, even though I don't think it's used in the right context or should be used at all, because we know that age-old story about the Native Americans. And then it's another one, Speedy Gonzalez. How many people say that? Have you ever heard of that before? And where did that come from? Was his name Sir Gonzalez and he used to speed around so they nicknamed him Speedy Gonzalez? Or was his first name Speedy and his last name Gonzalez and he just moved real fast? Like, where do these things come from? Another saying that I've used, I think, since I know to use sayings in proper context would be a story. I use it actually in one of my short descriptive paragraph or whatever about a story in English too about a young boy who was playing basketball, and it was the championship game, and it was the last free throw of the game that would determine if his friend won or lost. And the saying was sweating like a Hebrew slave. And I know, I really use that all the time, man. But to just think about it, about the Hebrews and how they were slaves in Egypt and were forced to labor hard, sweat, even forced to make more brick without straw. So imagine the pressure and the sweat that was on him. And my teacher, he was over the moon excited because he just imagined the pressure that was on him and the sweat that was coming down him because I used that description in there. So, you just want to know the root of things. My idea would be to start a website or something to get clarity on all these sayings and where they come from. A lot of things that we do them out of tradition or ignorance, unknowingly, because a lot of things you will hear, when you hear the root of it or what it really means, you'll be like, oh no, and you won't do it again. Or you'll hear it and you'll be like, oh, and then you'll do it more or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because everything starts from something. But where is the question? Which made me think about, name that movie, No Fate But What We Make. It was written down on the bench, but what movie did that come from? I'm a movie buff, so I'm going to be saying stuff like that, so you just have time. Okay, so another one of my favorite stories or sayings, or it's a saying that people say, fate or free will. And I remember in English literature, one of my favorite stories was Oedipus. And that was what it was based upon, fate or free will. Is it your fate or is it your free will that leads you? Which one is your life led by? And for all those who are unfamiliar with the story of Oedipus, it's about a king and a queen who, once they found out the queen was pregnant, goes to a fortune teller, gypsy woman, whomever, to get the future of their unborn child. And when they go, the fortune teller tells them that your child is destined to kill his father and marry his mother. And they believe that. Distraught, they go back and they decide that they're going to kill the son once he's born. But see, in that time it wasn't abortion, so they couldn't just eliminate the fate right away, so they had to wait for a certain amount of time. Once they had the baby, once the queen had the baby, they gave it to a messenger to kill. Look, you want something done, you sometimes just have to do it yourself, especially if you feel like it's so important. Because they gave it to a messenger on the way to kill the baby. The messenger looked at the baby, had compassion, passed it over to a friend of his that was in another country, ended up giving it to a king and the queen of that country. As the story goes on, Oedipus grows up. For whatever reason, he goes to find out his fate from the same fortune teller, which when he gets there tells him he's destined to kill his father and marry his mother. Sets things in motion. He's distraught when he finds this out, and he decides that's not going to be his fate. So he decided he's not going to go back to his country where he was the prince, where he known his mother and his father to be. On the road wandering, he runs into his real father, who was on his way to the fortune teller again because of a famine in the land because of a sphinx. On his way to the fortune teller, he runs into Oedipus, and Oedipus is not showing him the proper honor that the king deserves because he's a king. But Oedipus is a prince, and he's brought up with people honoring him also. So they bump heads. Oedipus ends up killing him and all his footmen, save one alive. He gets away, runs back to the country, but decides on his way that he can't go back and say he deserted his king because of one man. So he makes a lie. Says, hey, a whole bunch of people ambushed us and killed the king. I was the only one that was alive. Oedipus wanders to that same country, see the Sphinx, answer the riddle correctly. The people say, whoa, he's my hero, yay! Let's make him king. He stopped the famine. Let's have him marry the queen. And there it goes. He killed his father and he married his mother. Now, in everyday life, and back to episode 2 and 1 of my very own video blog, it goes to say, hey, was it his fate or was it his free will? Because it was the king and queen's free will that decided they was going to go to find out the future before it had happened. And they found out something bad. They believed that bad thing. And then they got rid of their son. Because if you think about it, when Oedipus found out his quote-unquote fate, he decided that he was going to avoid it by not going back to the country where he thought his real mother and father was, which ended up being not his real mother and father. He ended up killing his real father and marrying his mother out of ignorance. But had they grown him up in their presence and taught him morally right from wrong and what to do, then that would be his free will whether to do it, as opposed to the fate that they made because of their own free will and decisions that they make. I'm going to keep this low, but it's just something to think about. Think about the decisions that you're making in life. Is it your free will that's leading you there, or is it your fate? And how do you know the difference? These are questions that I'm asking myself, so I'm going to ask you too. Open your mind, people. Think. I'm having a good time. I want you to too. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, and or follow me at Twitter, just_beauty, or Pinterest. You can always find me by beauty. And I am TWO. Chuck 'em.